Greetings, true believers. Welcome in. I'm Ed Berliner. Thanks for joining us on the Talk Sports Network. And let us get to then the real football around the world, if you will. And as they call it, the beautiful game. I have no idea why they call it the beautiful game. I don't know who started it. I don't know why they did. I can't imagine. I've
Because
tried.
it's beautiful.
You don't get to answer yet because I'm not finished. You don't Ralph Punch the host's entry, young man. But as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, I don't know why. I don't know who did it, but God love them, they did it. So let's just go with it, okay? The gentleman who interrupted me, who just couldn't wait to talk because, I don't know, I guess he's got a jersey on that he wants to show off to everybody. He is my partner here, Silverman on soccer, veteran play-by-play analyst, knows all, sees all, tells all about the game and the beautiful game. Bruce Silverman joins us once again, replete in his Fort Lauderdale Strikers jersey. Well done, my friend. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wow.
This is why it's beautiful. Because I'm wearing the gold and red hoops.
See, I
bumblebees.
have a Strikers jersey, but I have one of the original Strikers jerseys. And
you know, I heard it doesn't fit you, so I'll take it off your hands.
It does not. I have gotten broader shouldered. I have not gotten heavier. But I kind of just, all that working out did something, and I got larger without getting fatter. So it just kind of stretches these days. So maybe one day I'll wear it, but you can't have it under any circumstance. No stretch of the imagination.
I tried.
I got the
2.0.
Ever. Okay. You have the new one. I have the vintage. Okay, that's what we always have to talk about. Vintage, okay.
Fair enough.
All right, let's go ahead and get started here. We got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things Major League Soccer, MLS to discuss, including a lot of international and some World Cup. So let's go ahead and here we go. I am not a big fan of FIFA in the first place. I have said that FIFA, the NCAA, and the IOC are the three biggest graft-ridden sports organizations in the world who will do anything to shovel as much money as they can and make it as difficult as they can for the fan and for the player. Here we go, because you have the president of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, who now wants to have the World Cup every 2 years, not every 4, every 2 years, and immediately Don Garber, who's the head of Major League Soccer, the commissioner, says, "What are you, insane? We don't need it. It dilutes the sport. I hate it on almost every level." I'm, of course, adding a little extra in here to go ahead and make it much more dramatic. But let's think about this for a minute. Let's not think about it from the level of players getting involved in changing leagues and people who would have to take time off. Let's just take it from a championship. Why not have it every 2 years? I mean, for some, it seems that 4 years is just too long. Players' careers could be impacted. Every 2 years, it seems to me like you'd have a better chance to have players in their prime than have to wait 4 years. Why not?
Look, I think from that standpoint, it's a valid reason. I want to stick to every 4 years because every 4 years for me is very similar to the Olympics. It's something to look forward to. I don't know the exact reasons for this. It's probably a money grab. It's probably a power grab. I like the every 4 years thing. I think it sets up some drama. There are other cups. There are other soccer cups that are played in between. So it's not like these players aren't going to have an opportunity to represent their country.
But it's not the World Cup. It's not the World Cup.
From a standpoint of the qualifiers, that's where I think we just keep it alone just the way that it is. Qualifying takes some time. There are other tournaments that are played in between every 4 years. The qualifying would be condensed. You'd have it in the middle of other tournaments. It would mean that there would be, and this is probably one of the reasons why Garber doesn't like the idea. It's going to take players away from the leagues, not just
okay, but
MLS.
I get that, and that's what I wanted to go ahead and make.
It's going to take it away from all the leagues.
Right. Let's just stop there for a second because I want to get to that. But from the concept of having a championship, a world championship every 2 years, first of all, I don't think it's a bad idea. Again, as I stated, because it gets more players involved, more in their prime. But the downside of this is that I immediately see is this is absolutely, positively, it goes right to what I said at the beginning of this whole segment. This is a money grab by FIFA.
Oh, absolutely.
This is absolutely, they know that they're going to double their money or triple their money. So they don't give a damn about the players, and they don't give a damn about qualifying. and they don't care about MLS, USL, or any other league around the world that plays soccer. As far as they're concerned, you and I both know that this is a grab saying, we're FIFA, we're the World Cup, you'll do what we say, screw you, and that's the end of the day. Because they know how much power they have, Bruce.
It's going to be interesting to see what the other leagues have to say about this, because I got to believe that a majority of the heads of the leagues from around the world are going to have a very, very similar feeling that Don Garber has. It's one thing to have an international break for different tournaments. Now, if you start to mix in World Cup every 2 years, how is that going to play into the schedule? Remember, here's one of the other interesting parts in all of this, Ed. The United States plays on a different soccer schedule than just about every other country in the world, because we play on a different schedule. We play basically on our schedule, where we go from February, March until November, December. Most other countries, most other soccer leagues go from starting in one calendar year and going to another. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this whole thing gets fleshed out. Ultimately, I don't think it's going to work. Ultimately, I think we'll stay at every 4 years.
But let's look at this, because we're starting to expand this a little bit from the original conversation, but it's all the pieces we have to talk about here. If FIFA says we're going to have the World Cup every 2 years, what possibly could the MLS, the USL, any European league, what could they do? To my response, the answer is nothing, because FIFA will say our way, highway. That's it.
So we talked about from the domestic league standpoint. It's going to be interesting to see what leagues around the country, or I'm sorry, around the world have to say about this. But one other thing really comes into mind is, what are the individual member countries of FIFA going to say and do about this particular situation?
Nothing.
Are they set up to play every 2 years? It means that there needs to be a lot more hosts that can host a tournament of this magnitude every 2 years.
Sure.
There's a reason why the Olympics are every 4 years, because it takes time to set them up and run them.
Well,
and
but look at it this way. It's part of the graft-ridden scenario that FIFA has in the first place, because the Olympics are just as bad, because the IOC forces local areas, communities, countries to create facilities that in 5 years are completely obsolete, that are not used, that are destroying tax bases. Look what they did in Brazil, for crying out loud, where they were destroying families and lives, and everybody lays out billions of dollars.
That was going to be my next point.
The IOC makes a tremendous amount of money. FIFA's going to say, we really don't care. Look, we'll go ahead and we'll do it every 2 years. You got to be ready. All you have to do is start planning out in advance, do it 8 years in advance, and you're all set. Because when the World Cup is played, FIFA bolts. They don't care, because they don't have to pay that kind of money, Bruce. So I don't see.
No. Like I said, that's why I brought up. That's why I brought up what these member countries are going to say.
It's a con job.
All of this.
Well, but wait a minute. I'll play devil's advocate. Other countries are going to say, "Oh wow, gee, we don't have to wait 4 years now. I mean, we can get it in 2 years, and then there's another, and maybe we can come back in 10 years instead of 12 years, and we've got all these wonderful facilities." You know how these people think. They're not going to think at all one bit about what it's going to do to the economic base of the country or the region. We're hosting a World Cup. We got more.
Let me flip the script.
We got more money to make.
Let me flip the script on this a little bit.
Sure.
If they go to every 2 years, do you think that is going to make soccer more popular or less popular around the world?
To be honest, off the top of my head, I don't know. But if you pressed me, I would say more popular. Because the World Cup draws the world. Everybody is watching. And you're going to have more countries that are going to say, well, now we have a greater chance to be in it. We had to wait 4 years. Well, our top 2 players are now 20, 25 years of age. We don't have to wait for them to be 23 and 27. We've got great players now. Let's move. The women's team would also do the same thing. They would say, we've got players here. We've got great players. We don't have to wait. I think that the players, in essence, would love it. I think the fans would love it. But we both know that this would destroy a lot of leagues and teams that are sitting on the ground going, so what? We have to give you our players now again to walk away from our leagues and they're playing for us. You even mentioned it. Major League Soccer works on an entirely different schedule than the rest of the world. So that's
Yep.
going to destroy competition, the competitive balance. That's going to take away stars. I mean, that's what Don Garber's thinking about here is, and I don't blame him. I'm all for him on this one because I think
Yeah,
it would
I agree
destroy
with that. And
MLS.
the timing of it, the timing of this FIFA announcement is a little interesting too, because you've got the MLS Championship this weekend. So, it's going to be interesting how this discussion continues as the press conferences happen over the course of the next few days leading up to the MLS Cup Championship. Yeah, on the surface, I'm going to say keep it every 4 years.
See, and on the surface, I know what's happening here. It's a money grab by FIFA. They just want to make more money from the countries. But my biggest question still comes down to this. If FIFA decided unilaterally to make the World Cup every 2 years, what could anybody else do? I believe that the leagues and the teams and the national groups, they would have to fall in line because otherwise they would be forced with the consideration that, you mean we can't play for the World Cup right now? We'd lose money, fans, and prestige. They have no choice.
From a FIFA standpoint, I got to believe that they took the temperature and they know what their member countries are feeling. I think when I asked you, what do you think about the popularity of the sport? If they were to do it every 2 years, I think in the short term, the popularity would be there. But I think there would be fatigue after maybe 3 cups in a number of years. But I think
fair.
initially, if they did it, it may work. Again, I'm a purist. I like to see it every 4 years.
But is this then perhaps a power play by FIFA? They already know that they are the most powerful soccer organization in the world. And if they come out and say every 2 years, then they can go ahead and force, and this would probably force, well, maybe, MLS and USL and all the American leagues to come into some sort of a seasonal line with the rest of them, with however everybody else around the world is playing, which would be very difficult.
You brought up now you're bringing up something as we're continuing to go down the rabbit hole. Is this a power play by FIFA
Yes.
to bring the United States with the rest of the world in terms of the soccer calendar?
Bingo. And is this a power play by FIFA to be the world organization that runs every facet of soccer? Look, I know I'm just blowing this really out of proportion, and people are going to go, Ed, you're megalomaniacal here. It doesn't happen. Yeah, it does. The world is getting smaller every day. Everybody is looking to, in these sports leagues, is looking to soak every single dollar, penny that they can of revenue. So if FIFA comes in, the World Cup, and says, you will now abide by our rules, every organization will kowtow to us. We will be the global center of soccer and run everything. You can call me crazy, but I can see people sitting there just like Gianni Infantino and going, we're going to run everything. Why not?
Well,
what could America do?
No, I think America will have some interesting choices to make.
Wow.
Look, we've got there's a lot of interesting things going on in the United States right now with the domestic game in terms of the professional game. This is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Maybe FIFA is just trying to position themselves to be the end all be all of human existence when it comes to soccer NFTs.
Why not?
Why not? Who knows?
I mean, I could see that it would already become a problem because then the United States would say, so what, you're going to run the United States national teams now? And FIFA may say, no, we're not going to run those for you. But if you want to be part of our organization, you're going to have to move with our schedule and how we tell you to play. And then at that point, completely extrapolating, the United States would have to say, okay, because otherwise we don't win a World Cup. And otherwise, then
in fairness, the United States
and then the players disappear, and then the players are signing with European teams or African teams or Asian teams or Far Eastern teams because they said, hell, I want to make money, but I also want to play in the World Cup. I mean, we've extrapolated so far now. I mean, the heads are exploding, but
I
I'm
know mine is.
I'm never at the point where I just want to stop because I can see people in sports who want to create a monopoly, and it's happened before. And
Well, yeah. I mean,
I see it
it's going to be
happening now.
interesting to see how this one plays out.
I like the way that you're just kind of cutting that fence right now, young man. I see you just kind of sitting there.
No, look,
You're
I've
not ready to
taken
go
my
there, and I get
position.
that. I get that.
I've taken my position. I think it's good every 4 years. I think
Okay.
that, I think that it will be interesting to see how this plays out, and it will be interesting to see if one way or another this brings the United States into the same schedule as everybody else. Soccer in Minnesota at that new park could be very, very interesting in January. Bring out the orange balls.
And you might be playing in January. And then February, it might just become another winter sport. So don't discount FIFA for having global ideas of running the sport of soccer because I could see that coming. The IOC does it. FIFA will say, why not? And just look at the money we can make. MLS also a couple of things here. Let's move on to this. The MLS, you and I have talked before about what I consider to be far too many soccer leagues in America that robs from the popularity, robs from the money, robs from what could be a really great centralized effort, sort of like NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, major leagues, and then your minor leagues. MLS has another developmental league starting in 2022. This one is called the MLS Next Pro, and the Rochester, New York Football Club decided that they're going to join this. To me, Bruce, this is just a minor league, and
It is.
don't call it. I guess I'm too American. I chafe at calling it developmental league. Call it what it is. It's a minor league, and make sure that it's very affordable. Have your feeder system that goes through to the MLS, but stop creating this as. I don't want to see this equated anywhere close to the same level as MLS. You're a
I
minor
don't
league.
think so. What the MLS has been working on for the last couple of years is to come up with a system that develops American players and provides a pathway to play MLS soccer. So what they did first is they set up the MLS Next system. That's part of their academies. So each team has MLS Next as a part of it. And so those are the youth programs. And they had an amazing event where they had multiple age groups all set up, and they played it a few months back. The next place that MLS was going to go was to have their own minor league system. So right now, prior to this announcement yesterday about MLS Next Pro, most of the teams that are going to be in that Next Pro have been playing in the USL system. So what is happening is those teams are coming over in 22 and 23 to be a part of MLS Next. There will be some teams that are currently either in USL Championship or in League One that will stay in the USL system for one more year and then move over. And you're going to see more teams. And what was very interesting to me, you mentioned Rochester. What was very interesting to me is that not only were almost all of the teams associated with MLS clubs, you had an independent club coming in like Rochester. So what is going to be very interesting over the course of the next couple of years is going to be the power struggle between MLS Next Pro and the USL pyramid. So now you have multiple levels of development all the way up from youth to MLS, and you have the same type of structure going on with USL. The difference being MLS being considered in the eyes of USSF as the top division, the premier division in the United States, and USL Championship being the second division in the United States, and then League One being third division, League Two being fourth division. You have NISA over here. This is going into the alphabet soup
See,
that
here
we
we
talked
go.
about before.
Too many
And
leagues, too many teams.
well, and so once again, you have a situation where MLS has been working in concert with USL for years, and they have decided that what they want to do is bring that under their own umbrella.
Okay,
So
then
what's
is
gonna be
this
very
not?
interesting-
It's great, but does this not lead then to the MLS looking to absorb the USL, USL ceasing to exist one day, and MLS creating that one shot across the board? I'll tell you, this looks just like what the NBA did to the ABA
I don't
about a
think
million
so.
years ago.
With this move to MLS Next Pro, I think you're going to see MLS take all of their minor league teams, put it under their umbrella over the next couple of years, continue to grow their league. I think you're going to see USL, which has done a great job of being independent, going into minor league cities throughout the country, continue to build their league. I think they're going to stand independent of each other. I do not see a merger on the horizon at any point.
I'm going to make a prediction for you here then, because this all comes down in the end to money. The USL has set and made all these wonderful minor league footprints, if you will, these smaller cities. So the money, eventually, it's becoming tough for every league to make it these days. And COVID-19, the pandemic, certainly put a stretch on everybody. If the USL starts to run out of money, or they start to see themselves in real bad trouble, they will go to MLS. They will look for the merger. MLS will accept them. They will blow out the teams that aren't making any money. They will absorb the cities that are the smaller cities, if you will. They'll create them as the MLS top tier and the MLS minor league. That's it. Honestly, Bruce, I think, and again, look, this is opinion, and everybody's got an opinion these days, but I've seen leagues do this before, and with the money, the way things are so tight these days, I don't think two major soccer leagues can exist in America. I think it's got to be one, and I'll tell you at this point, I think USL, if you were to talk to somebody right now in the USL front office, which I haven't, and again, this is all just based on experience, I'll bet you there's people there going, we have to look at that as an option, that when they come in, and it might just be the right thing to do to save our asses and keep everybody from going belly up.
What's interesting is, this MLS Next Pro, that hasn't been a secret. I mean, we knew it was coming. We knew that teams were leaving USL Championship and USL League One that were MLS affiliated, that were going to this new league. So it's not a secret, or it didn't catch anybody by surprise. What I think USL is going to do next is they're going to announce promotion and relegation, and I think that is going to be their image of difference, and I think that is going to be what they're going to try to hang their hat on, and what they're going to try to make the reason why people should watch them instead of MLS, or including MLS. But I think you're going to see promotion and relegation out of USL before you see a merger.
They're going to have to, though, do an amazing job marketing, and they're going to need stars. Because let's face it, MLS has the top players. USL's got to come in and they've got to promote the daylights out of these teams. They got to make sure that people are showing up in the stands, watching on pay-per-view, watching on YouTube, wherever, getting their players out there. Because again, I'm going to go back to the old NBA, ABA. It's what the ABA did between Julius Erving, George Gervin, and so many great players who were their stars. They got to be so big that the NBA said, those are great markets. The Virginia market,
but here's
New
the
Jersey,
difference.
we got to grab that. And that's what saved everybody. And the ABA went right to it because they knew they couldn't exist long-term as a full-time league. They knew this. I think
But there is a difference. There is a difference. USL has never pretended that they wanted to go head-to-head, either in signing players or in the competition than MLS. So that's a big difference than, say, the, NASL, 2.0, where they said we want to be the top division and we want to go head-to-head with MLS. So I think that's a big difference there. I think that they are going to implement promotion and relegation. They already have great television system set up
Yes, they do.
where the games are all on ESPN Plus. They're on locally in a number of markets. Um, I think that they have the right idea. I think they're going to go pro rel. MLS is not set up for pro rel. I think what it will set up is a showdown between the original U.S. model of professional sports, which is generally what MLS has right now, two divisions in a playoff. And I think that you're going to see pro rel in USL. We're going to see that for a number of years, and we're going to find out what fans think is a better way to play the game. And I think that is what fans in the United States are going to get out of all of this.
I'll give you that. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to dollars and cents. If the sponsors aren't there to promote USL and are not there, if the ratings aren't there, if the TV dollars aren't there, and they start to bleed and they start to hemorrhage that money, and everybody right now is scrambling one way or another, even though some of the sports have really unlimited cash. The NFL, the NBA, college football, to many ways, they all have unlimited dollars. I mean, they can do whatever they want.
There's no doubt. USL
But they're not.
have that.
USL's not at that stage. They're still sort of like, boy, I don't want to upset anybody here because the quality of play is outstanding, but they are still.
Yeah,
it
really is.
Child.
So what I think is the difference is in USL, nobody's pretending to be the major league. They're not out spending an incredible amount of money.
No, but they want to be the major league. They still need to compete for the dollars. That's my whole point. If Nabisco is out there.
But they have built, over the last 4 or 5 years, USL has continued to get stronger. They've added more and more cities. They've added more and more leagues. They have their own academies now. They're just doing it on a smaller scale.
They've done a great job. I'm not taking anything away from them. It's a great job.
I think right now, you're going to see USL kind of reorganize a little bit after they lose all of these MLS-related teams. The league is going to get a little bit smaller, but then it will get a little bit larger because they'll go back to expanding to other cities.
Good.
I say this: give it 5 years. Come back to me in 2027. Okay. And let's see where these two systems are. I believe that they will be independent of each other. And I think that there are going to be fans that will really gravitate towards USL with promotion and relegation. Because remember, different than the way we grew up, where we never saw EPL games, we never saw Bundesliga, we never saw La Liga, we never saw Serie A. We didn't see all those things growing up because, look, let's face it, we barely had cable growing up. So now that you can watch all of these different leagues from around the country anytime you want. You can watch the Mexican league, almost every night on, Uno Mas and Univision and Tuden and everything else.
It's all wonderful. It's all wonderful. There's a lot of soccer out there, but my point still comes down to
promotion and relegation. Promotion and relegation is very, very popular with American fans because they watch what's going on with the EPL and Bundesliga 1 and 2 and Serie A and Serie B and La Liga and everything else. I really think give USL 5 years of promotion and relegation, and I think that you are going to see them grow even greater. I think that they can keep it at their minor league level in terms of budget.
Okay.
I think that you are just going to see a tremendous amount of soccer in the United States. I think you may, going back to our previous conversation, you may start to see some USL players playing for the U.S. men's national team because you already have USL players playing for other national teams.
Okay.
That was something that was very big with the NASL 2.0. There were players that played for national teams, including the U.S. men's national team out of that second division. But I really believe that unless USL really stumbles and stubs their toe, they have an opportunity at a lower budget to be, on a popularity standpoint, they potentially, with promotion and relegation, can be as popular as MLS.
And unfortunately, I'm going to counter that by saying, yes, you're right. You're absolutely, the 5 years, I think it's a great idea. And I want them to survive. I don't want anybody to go out of business. I want everybody to make $1 million and retire to a small island somewhere in the South Pacific, like is my plan if anybody wants to give me the money if you win.
I don't need the South Pacific. I'll take the Caribbean on that.
I'll take it. It's easy. But here's the deal. And I'll go back to what I said earlier. If a sponsor, and I'm going to use Nabisco, comes in and they have a $10 million a year soccer budget because of COVID-19, because of supply side issues, because of the economy, not only in America, but around the world as well, and the economy starts to falter, and that budget goes from $10 million to $6 million, somebody's going to have to suffer. And in the end, the marketing and salespeople are going to look at, I've got MLS over here, I've got USL over here, I got bigger markets here, I got bigger ratings. That's where my money is going. And God forbid USL, if that happens, then you're going to have owners that are going to start to abdicate. You're going to have salaries that are going to go down. You're going to have interest that will wane. I hate to say it, but I've seen this happen before far too many times. I hope the USL has the wherewithal to outlive that and to withstand it. But in today's economy, in today's world, I'm not so sure.
I think some of the differences are, number one, USL is established. So
Yes.
it's not like it's a fledgling league anymore. So I think that adds some
But they
stability.
still need money, Bruce.
Well, they do. And from a promotion standpoint, from a sponsorship standpoint, the majority of their sponsorship is still coming from the local community. You know, the last time we got together, we talked about the differences between international and national and local community. And USL has done a great job of being in the community and being community partners. And you see, if you look around USL, you will see some major logos on kits. Now, most of that is local money, but that local money is going to stay there because of two things. One, the investment in USL in terms of sponsorship is much less than the investment at the MLS level. If the economy starts to go south and people are spending less money, you may see that community level of participation and investment.
Okay.
It may be a better bet for businesses to invest locally than it is for them to go national.
But it still is the return on the dollar that we have to look at for the sponsors. And if the local sponsors were getting a 17% return on their money beforehand, and now they're getting a 6% return on their money, they're going to think twice about what they do. So all I'm saying is, and we're out of time, and I want to continue this another time, but we'll leave it at this for the time being right now. I grant you your 5 years, and I hope USL can make it, but we have to start watching what's happening with the economy, and I still think one solid major soccer league in America with that major and minor league setup would be better than having a bunch of smaller leagues of one league and big leagues around the country. That's all I'm saying.
Here's what it all comes down to.
Money.
Right here, it's not even that. Don Garber is on the record as saying that promotion and relegation is not needed in the United States. So you have two fundamental different thoughts.
I think he's wrong.
You have MLS that's saying we don't want pro-rel, and you have USL who I believe will institute pro-rel. That will be another sticking point if and when there is ever a merger. Now, if the USL was to completely fall apart, would they go and poach some of the bigger teams and bring them into MLS? Because right now, the only promotion that we have in the United States in soccer is USL teams becoming MLS teams, right?
Coaching is easy. All you have to do is write a check. It's easy. It again comes down to who's going to have the most money.
Oh, it's promotion by check.
Okay.
And so, look, the next 5 years are going to be a lot of fun. We have covered two topics on this show today that is going to be fun to take a look at. Will FIFA go to every 2 years on the World Cup? And what will be the future of U.S. soccer? Both of these conversations kind of intertwine.
Yes, they do. Yes, we do. And we're going to do this again. I have a feeling. And hopefully a few million people would get pissed off and say something about it because that's what we're here for. If you'd like to go ahead and get pissed off at Bruce, no, please don't do that. But
Don't
if you
get pissed off.
no, don't get pissed off. But if you want to get a hold of him, you can do it at Bruce Silverman on Facebook, at Silverman Show on Twitter, and also what you can do is also go to TalkSportsNetwork.com. You can see the whole shows here. Mr. Silverman, always a pleasure, my friend. Take care, and we'll see you next week. We'll do it again.
See ya.
There you go. Silverman on soccer. Get a hold of Bruce. Also get a hold of me if you want, because I'm sure I said some things which are going to really annoy some people, but it's all just guesswork. We're all admitting it at this point, but it's worth discussing. Get a hold of me on Facebook and Twitter at Berliner Speaks. Catch all the shows and this entire show at TalkSportsNetwork.com. For Bruce Silverman, everybody here, I'm Ed Berliner. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Do it again next week, and we'll be right back here. Until we meet again, rock on, true believers. See ya.